In the mid-19th century, the wilderness of northern Pennsylvania stood as a rugged, untamed landscape, captivating and challenging all who dared to venture into its depths. For many, it was a land cloaked in mystery, a sprawling canvas of dense forests, rolling hills, and meandering rivers. It presented both promise and peril to those who sought to explore its vast expanses. Towering stands of old-growth forests, populated by ancient hemlock, white pine, and various hardwood species, stretched as far as the eye could see. The thick canopy provided a natural cathedral, filtering the sunlight to create a mosaic of light and shadow on the forest floor below. This was a land teeming with life. The headwaters of three mighty river systems were arteries of life, coursing with vitality and providing sustenance to both the land and its inhabitants. Their banks were lined with thickets of wildflowers and marshlands. Native Americans, who had inhabited these lands for centuries, understood the delicate balance of nature and had woven themselves into the fabric of the wilderness. By 1850, an industrial revolution had begun to encroach upon this pristine wilderness. Lumbermen ventured deeper into the forests, felling the towering trees to feed the growing demand for timber. It was a time of transformation. Early settlers had carved out a living from the earth, toiling in the fertile valleys and dense forests. This lifestyle demanded unwavering dedication and hard work. Families rose with the sun, tending to their crops of corn, oats, and potatoes, and raising livestock. Crossroads villages blossomed into thriving communities. Churches and schools were built. Businesses of all kinds opened to meet the needs of a growing population. But more families were making their way to Potter County. They were attracted by its inexpensive land and the opportunity to improve their lot in life. Many family gatherings included singing along to fiddles and banjos. Community was the cornerstone of Potter County life. From barn dances on weekend nights to Sunday morning worship services, townspeople would come together to compare notes and enjoy each other's company. Playful laughter of children filled the air as they played marbles or tag or flew the kites they'd made from sticks and paper. The fabric of Potter County life was a harmonious blend of toil and celebration. of unity and resilience. Its simplicity was complemented by a richness of community bonds, the beauty of nature intertwined with the warmth of human connection. Over a period of many decades, historians have been able to piece together a well-documented mosaic that reveals Potter County's important role in the Underground Railroad. Aided by sympathizers extending from points just north of the Mason-Dixon line to the remote villages in central Pennsylvania, the fugitives were ushered into the Potter County seat of Coudersport from the south and the east. Your dreams of freedom serve as a beacon through the darkest of nights. Your path has been etched with dense forests, treacherous rivers, and a network of vaguely identified routes. Each step is fraught with the haunting echoes of pursuit.
Did my Lord deliver Daniel? Did my Lord? Oh yes, He did. Did my Lord deliver Daniel? Did my Lord? Oh yes, He did. Did my Lord?
The escape, often beginning under the cloak of darkness, means leaving behind the only life you've known, risking encounters with merciless slave chasers, a looming threat of capture, torture, or even death. You search desperately for safe houses designated along the way. Each flickering candlelight and window represents a ray of hope. This kindness of strangers, often risking their own safety, stands in stark contrast to all you have ever known. You eagerly embrace their sustenance and their guidance for your arduous journey ahead. You become aware of the extreme divisions that are threatening the very future of a country founded on the principles of unity and freedom. Your emotional scars run as deep as your physical ones. Fear of recapture or betrayal lingers like a shadow.
Glorious freedom, glorious freedom, lead me home, Lord, lead me home. Glorious freedom,
None were more sympathetic to these desperate fugitives than John S. and Mary Mann, whose large store, law office, and home was located in the center of downtown Coudersport. At times, Mary Mann was enlisted to assist the secret transport. She would hitch their horse and buggy and conceal the runaways as cargo, never raising an eyebrow of marshals or slave chasers, and sometimes making her delivery on poor roads under a cloak of darkness. The route progressed north over Niles Hill to the Nelson Clark farm in the Dingman Run area, then over the hill by way of Hebron and Clara to the village of Millport. Agents then ushered them northward to Rochester, New York, and on toward their freedom in Canada. Entering the 1860s, a distant drumbeat of a potential war between the states began to be heard across the land. News of Fort Sumter's surrender in April 1861 sent a shockwave across the northern states. It was unthinkable that soldiers wearing the Union blue would be forced to surrender their posts and stand down. Feelings of anger and despair were fueled by newspaper editors and public figures. It instantly grew to a cry for brutal revenge. With deep determination and steely resolve, President Lincoln set out to score a quick victory and reunify the Republic. He sounded the call for tens of thousands of men to join the fight. Lincoln believed that an all-out attack of no more than 3 months would drive the Confederacy into submission. Almost instantly, the ranks of the Union troops began to swell. Across the countryside, men and boys mustered in town halls, churches, and other makeshift recruitment centers, eager to join the cause. What motivated these brave volunteers to step up, putting aside their own affairs and risking their very lives? For many, it was honor and duty. For others, it was the modest compensation or the glory. But all were driven by incredible courage. They would carry their firearms to their death, if that's what it took, to protect the United States. As this wave of patriotism spread across the northern states, from Potter County came farmers and rough-and-tumble lumberjacks, shopkeepers, hunters, and trappers, clean-shaven teenagers, and aging men with grizzled faces.
Dear wife and children, banners were streaming all over the streets and waving from carriages, and all was excitement, bustle, and parade. After marching around the town, the soldiers and citizens who had accompanied them were furnished with an excellent supper by the ladies of Wellsville.
President Lincoln had sounded a call to battle, and answer it they would.
At 1:00 a.m. Friday, we were escorted by the firemen with their torches and accompanied by the band and many citizens to the depot, where we bid a final adieu to our friends and started for the scene of strife.
My dear M, I am well, and I hope this finds you the same.
We expect to leave here in the morning. We have to go into battle soon. I expect we are going to have a hard fight before long.
For many of the young men who left Potter County to join the Union forces, romanticized notions of honor and glory were quickly replaced by the grim realities of warfare. The Union soldier faced the brutality of combat, confronting the deafening roar of cannons, the crack of rifles, and the horrific sight of comrades falling beside them. Amid the chaos and ear-piercing cacophony, the Union commanders developed a code of communications involving musical instruments. Drums were used to provide inspiration to soldiers, as well as communicate orders and direction to the troops. Bugles and fifes were used to guide the motions of the troops, such as commence firing, cease and disperse, or fix bayonets and prepare for hand-to-hand combat. The Civil War introduced unprecedented carnage, the likes of which the nation had never seen. Introductions of the latest in muskets with body-piercing bayonets and heavy artillery amplified the scale and brutality of warfare. They witnessed staggering casualties, leaving scars on the soldiers' minds and bodies that would linger long after the war's end. Soldiers grappled with fear, homesickness, and the haunting specter of death. They witnessed the suffering of comrades, the loss of friends, and the devastation of war-torn landscapes. This took a profound emotional toll on these young men.
I can look back upon years past and gone, and think of the many joys that I did not realize at the time. One is not apt to think of it, but he will see, after a few years, where he enjoyed the pleasures of the world. I am very weak. They took me before the board and they decided to discharge me from the service. They say I will not be fit for the field again this winter. Angelo Crapsey.
Dear M, during the fight today, I saw a good many men and horses. I saw one man that was hit with a piece of a shell on his left shoulder. It went through him. He died about 2 hours later. I hope they don't surround me as bad as that. But if they do, I hope they make it a little worse for me, so I don't have to suffer as he did. But the Lord's will be done, not mine. Porter Hall Clark.
For the soldier, the transition was often jarring. Once familiar landscapes now seemed strange. The quietude of rural life stood as a stark contrast to the terror of battle. The routines of country life, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, were a stark departure from the thunderous roar of cannons and the cries of fallen comrades. Nightmares, flashbacks, and a haunting sense of survivor's guilt often plagued returning soldiers, making it difficult to find solace in the peaceful surroundings. In some instances, the suffering proved to be unbearable. News of battles, casualties, and political developments was often slow to reach the more remote corners. Much of it stirred a range of emotions, from sorrow and concern to hope and pride as people went about their lives. They eagerly welcomed letters from loved ones, many of which have been preserved by their descendants.
Dear M, I hope and pray that God will hasten the time when peace shall reign throughout the United States. The order is ready to march at 6 o'clock. M, write me often so I can hear from you once again.
Monuments located at the courthouse square and elsewhere around Potter County tell of local soldiers' service, but behind each and every name carved upon them is a personal story. Many played a pivotal role in preserving the Union and ending the institution of slavery. Civil War soldiers returning home after experiencing the harrowing realities of battle carried with them a complex blend of emotions, challenges, and a quest for normalcy in the midst of chaos. For some, the scars were visible, etched on their bodies as reminders of the conflict's savagery. For others, the wounds ran deeper, unseen by the naked eye, haunting their minds and souls. Families eagerly awaited the return of sons, husbands, fathers, and brothers, hoping to reclaim a sense of normalcy disrupted by the war's turmoil. Many of the runaway slaves who had survived their journey to freedom faced an uncertain future following the war. But many yearned to return to U.S. soil or travel on to the southern states to reunite with family members. It was anything but easy. Imagine the journey back across the Canadian border. A flood of emotions surges within you. You're careful to avoid prying eyes as you continue your journey to the welcoming arms of your family back home. The legacy of the Civil War soldier remains an integral part of American history. A testament to the human spirit's resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity. Their sacrifices and valor continue to be honored, reminding us of the cost of preserving the freedom and liberties that remain at the very foundation of the United States of America.